These entries are by overall Kamen Riders, whether it's character or suit. I asked content creators who their favorites are and I numbered them from there. Many of these were recorded years ago, some were recorded recently. Either way, please enjoy, as we start with 50.
Falcon from the Saber movie. He looks cool and I have his sword. Okay, 1 down, 49 more to go.
49.
When it comes to favorite Kamen Riders, the one that always comes in my mind first is Kamen Rider Odin. Now I know he didn't get a lot of screen time in Ryuki, and he didn't really do a lot overall, but I think his suit just looks so good. With the whole phoenix and gold and majestic theme to the whole thing. Oh, I love looking at the suit. It looks kind of like if a survive mode was like his base form, which I think is kind of what they were going for. And I think it really, really works. And of course, he's a very overpowered rider. He was created to be an overpowered rider. And while that is pretty unfair to the rest of the riders in Ryuki, I think it's done well. I like how it looks. I love his weapon. The gold visor looks great. So I always loved seeing this suit in action, really beating up the Ryuki riders, giving them a good fight. Besides that, he didn't really do a lot in the Kamen Rider franchise, but I feel like he's definitely made an impact as being one of the coolest and most majestic looking riders, and that's why he's got to be my favorite. So Kamen Rider Odin has got to be my favorite of all riders.
48.
Kamen Rider 15, aka Ren Aoi, appeared in Heisei Riders vs. Showa Riders, Kamen Rider Tyson featuring Super Sentai. His name is derived from the fact that the movie showed a conflict between the Showa Riders, who numbered 15, and the leading Heisei Riders up to that point, with Gaim being the 15th primary Heisei Rider. And while he primarily uses the rider arms of the Neo Heisei or Heisei Phase 2 riders, there is a great scene where he uses Decade arms to beat Kamen Rider Decade, and the latter complains about the former egotistically representing a higher number. And then there's Gaim Arms, his self-described ultimate form, which also looks great and necessitates Gaim to use Ichigo arms to defeat and shake off 15's brainwashing. Outside of the Legend Rider arms forms, 15's basic 15 arms is such an edgelord suit, and I mean that in the best way possible. The skeleton motif matches well with the retooling of the Bidan Empire as a Legion of the Undead, and the armor part that drops on his head is a flippin' skull and rib cage that engulfs the man while bones crackle and ominous music plays. The black and silver color scheme works quite well. The golden symbols on his headpiece are actually the kanji for the number 15, which is a sweet touch. Besides the suit, there's the man under it. Despite butchering the Showa Riders' characters, I think Yonemura did a fine job with Ren Aoi's character, though. In many ways, Ren Aoi is Kagenari done right. They're both fathers who joined up with a villainous organization in order to rescue their child. By the end of both movies, both have reformed and defected from the side of evil, and made peace with their respective families. Aoi's more sympathetic to me because he did what he thought he needed to do to bring his son back to life, but ultimately learned to move past it and made peace with his son's death. He actually does learn a lesson and resolve his conflict by the end. Even while he is brainwashed, his convictions and desire to do what he must for his son are still apparent, and the scene where he and his wife give one last goodbye to their son's ghost for a proper send-off is rather touching. But yeah, that's why Kamen Rider 15 is my pick for this list.
47.
Kamen Rider Snipe. Would you believe #1 Kamen Rider Snipe fan ever was going to talk about Kamen Rider Snipe? Why is Kamen Rider Snipe, in my opinion, one of the greatest Kamen Riders ever? He just is. Just kidding. A lot of people really don't like the personality that he puts forward in XSTUDIOS, being that hard-headed, bitter character that doesn't want to work with people to get what he wants. Truth be told, if you actually look closer, he does all of this so no one has to carry the pain and burdens they have, like he does. Taiga Hanaya wants to make sure no one has to go through the same tragedy like he has, and believes that he has nothing left to lose after losing it all those years ago. He's not perfect either. Shocking, right? But every character, as much as they have their ups, they have their downs. Throughout XSTUDIOS, he slowly learns to care again just like he did when he was licensed as a doctor. He still has that doctor's care, and he came to understand that he doesn't have to be in this alone. His actions are that of close vigilante justice in a way. Sure, most of his actions are unethical or unorthodox, but those are just for the sake of others being in a better position than him, like his illegal clinic. You can see that's run down and of course illegal, but you come to find out that clinic was for those who are less fortunate in life. Despite his trauma and held grudges, he still manages to open up, ask for help, and care for others.
46.
Has anyone picked Kamen Rider Kiva yet? Kamen Rider Kiva is a series that often gets a lot of shit that I don't think it deserves. I need to talk at least a little bit about the major themes of the show. Those being that the influences on our lives do not have to affect your actions and the choice of your right and wrong. But it's also distinctly shown in the suit. While many other suits of Kamen Riders show off aspects of the show, there's obvious gothic influence, not just in a subcultural sense, but also in a classic literature sense. And the series itself has obvious influences, of course, from Dracula, but other series like Frankenstein, where, remember, Wataru feels like he's cobbled together of different places and doesn't feel whole until he decides, no, I am because I want to be. And the chains just encase him and limit his power by representing his low self-esteem in life. The chains binding someone to a past they regret or a past they don't know, and trying to fix Wataru's whole character arc is just about understanding his own past. He seems unaware of many a thing and learns throughout the series that what he thought he was isn't so concrete. And that doesn't change who he is, just changes the things that made him. Also, plus, his rider kick is just so fucking dope. It's like, the best. How can you not like it? He's like, so cool. God, it's cool. So cool. So cool.
45.
The hero's journey can be unexpected, especially for someone like Jonichi, who started out as a bully taking down other dance teams, then becoming Kamen Rider Guridan. But once he loses his closest friend, he joins Oden Pieralfonso and his shenanigans. Jonichi learns to become his own person, a strong person without the need of someone by his side, although having someone there for him makes him stronger than before. He really is a hero.
44.
Rihito Ishiki, more known as Esu, or Kamen Rider Eden. One of, if not my favorite Kamen Rider movie villains of all time. One of my go-to headcanons is that he is just Yu Takahashi's second shot at a previous character from the past. With how similar his motivation is with Kagenari, or Kamen Rider Fuma, to put humanity in a simulation so that their dying loved ones can live in a world where they can go about their normal lives again. Even if this is a recycled plot point, I really do enjoy it more here, because to me, it feels like the motivation for the character here feels more in theme with the season. The movie framed it at first so that it seems like he was going to bring about the end of the world, but this was rather just a red herring. Kamen Rider Eden is one of the chosen vessels of Arc, a human chosen by AI to carry out humanity's evil. But it was quite the opposite. He did this for nothing but love. Love that was lost because of Arc's malice long ago on Daybreak. Proving that no matter what it is, the indomitable human spirit will always overcome. I like that this puts into perspective how most, if not all of the vessels of Arc ended up proving Arc's hypothesis to be wrong. Aruto's forgiveness, Metsubo Jinrai's selflessness, Leon's persistence, Kuroto's love, Guy's accountability, and Rihito's hopefulness, a hope born out of grief. Just because a person stumbles and loses their way doesn't mean they're lost forever, is a quote I would like to describe them. Rihito realized at the end that even if what he did is with justifiable intentions, it still harmed others. So he learns to be better. Oh, and the suit's cool too. It even glows in the dark. How freaking cool is that?
43.
The one and only Ryotaro no Gami. Den-O is a show I really resonate with for its story, themes, and characters, and Ryotaro is one of the biggest reasons why I love it so much. It was so satisfying to see a more timid and meek protagonist in Rider, because as much as I appreciate confident and bold mates from time to time, there's more than heroes than just those personalities, and those aren't the only personalities that define them as good characters. Ryotaro has a lot of struggles, bad luck, and low confidence in himself as Den-O starts, but what makes his character work so well, for me, is that those struggles are what inspire him to grow and overcome them. One of my favorite moments from Den-O was from episode 20, when Yuto was questioning why Ryotaro became Den-O in the first place, and what Ryotaro responded with was, "I do it because I think I have to, as I'll continue to do so. Not just to help people, I'm just doing what I can, even though I'm weak, unlucky, and don't understand anything. That's no excuse for not doing anything." And that was one of the moments that made me so gravitate towards Ryotaro. No matter what shortcomings he has, he just cares about doing what he can, not just for helping, but because it's the right thing to do. Not having a lot of confidence in ourselves is something a lot of people can relate to, and seeing something like that with Ryotaro means so much to me because that's something I can struggle with too. I see Ryotaro as the heart of the show because he cares so much to take action, for the sake of helping others and making them happy across time, just doing the best he can. That's Ryotaro's real action, and that's why he'll always be my favorite writer protagonist. Watch Den-O, please, and thank you. Okay, bye.
42.
After some thinking, I decided to pick Blade, which probably sounds like a weird choice to you, even if you've seen the show, and someone even argued that it's not even the main character of the show. But before that, I have to place a spoiler warning, as my argument has a lot to do with the ending and stuff that happened after that, okay? Kenzeki is not just the most meme rider there is, but also one that lost a lot of for the sake of others. I'm not saying that characters from that season are unlikable, far from that, but I wouldn't call Hajime a likable character. Honestly, I don't see Kenzeki's motivation in saving his life, and just general living conditions of Hajime, but that's what makes Kenzeki great. He's so noble that he's willing to turn himself into undead and hide away from everyone to save his friend. I also really like Blade memes, yeah.
41.
Gaematsu, or Kamen Rider Thouser, may be considered a contentious pick for this list, but I assure you there are a few characters who represent the core principle of Kamen Rider better, that being the henshin, or the art of self-transformation in light of an insurmountable challenge to our morality. Beginning the series as a pompous, entitled prick, Guy immediately served as a harsh counterpoint to Aruto Hiden, the titular Kamen Rider 01's boundless idealism. Where Aruto viewed the seasonal lower-class allegory of Humagears, Guy was not so lenient, causing him to immediately rub viewers the wrong way. We discover toward the end of the series that Guy was a victim of child abuse so severe he overwrote his own personality as a coping mechanism, something we see reflected in the literal programming of said Humagears he fears so much. We come to understand that he is reflective of the world he lives in rather than demanding it change through inaction like his counterpart, and very willing to play the game of capitalism in order to achieve his end goals. In my opinion, he stands as the strongest example of the season's main theme. The sins of the fathers define our past, but we as individuals define our futures. We've all been hurt before, and most of us have lashed out or isolated ourselves in fear of being hurt again, even if the threat is something we've manufactured from perceived bad faith arguments. What Guy offers the audience is not an opportunity to wallow in his misery, but a hand to help pull us out of that pit. Anyway, I just think he's neat.
40.
Kamen Rider Diendo, also known as Kaito Daiki, from Kamen Rider Decado. This was one of the first riders I finished, and I really, really love it. But I think in turn, it made me kinda hyper aware of the flaws Decade has as a season. I don't think Daiki is one of these flaws, though. Without getting into spoilers, I think he's probably the better written characters of the cast. For context, Toshiki worked with what he had, given the limitations Decade had to deal with at the time of filming. And in turn, I think he gave us a beautifully tragic character. He's lost everything, family, loved ones, and even the entire world he called his home. He can't even return to it. These struggles are only then emphasized by his implied relationship with Kaguya Tsukasa, and if you know, you know. He's stubborn, immature, but he's also playful, charming, sassy. Inoue Toshiki and Totani Kimito really put in a lot into making this writer flawed, and by extension human, but it's just so hard not to enjoy the work and the performance we've been given from the two. It's beautiful, really. With that being said, have you seen Superhero Tyson? Daiki's reaction to feeling betrayed is so petty, and he was so ready to end the world because of Tsukasa, and honestly, girl, same. If you know the context, then it definitely makes it more funny, but girl, same.
39.
Kamen Rider Geo, aka Tokiwa Sogo, happens to be one of my personal favorite writers in the whole franchise. Sogo, being such a simple-minded person with childlike dreams and aspirations, certainly make him easy to like and follow along on his journey. It's important to see him understand the circumstances that is his future as the Demon King, and him fully committing to working his way up to prevent that future from even occurring. Sogo doesn't want to be a destructive king. He wants to be the best king he can possibly be, and that trait shines when he's around other characters like Gates, Tsukuyomi, and Waz. Sogo is the glue that holds this group together. I always love seeing them grow as a family, and I love the many interactions had between them and past writers,
especially in the movies. Sogo was able to take on these leadership qualities as the show went on that mirrors his eventual uprising as a king, and that is even reflected in his many suits. Base form Geo is one of the cleanest and clever main riders we've had, with the watch motif and the many watch crowns placed throughout. So Okano's performance as Sogo being this young, plucky upstart added even more charm and reason as to why I think Geo as a whole was so much fun. And that's the best way I can describe Geo, as a writer and as a show. Fun.
38.
I pride myself on being the biggest Kagero stan out there. To be real, I could talk about this suit and this character for days. He's everything that Daiji wants to be but can't be. They're two sides of the same coin and they refuse to admit it. Also, his fit. I can't get enough of the dumb e-boy fit that they gave him. But I love the concept behind it of the embracement of the two halves of light and darkness. But man, Kagero, my beloved, he's such a
37.
One of my favorite aspects in Tokusatsu, possibly above all else, is how well the characters are written. It's a broad criteria, of course. Writing drama centered around those characters could go any direction. But in Tokusatsu, and Kamen Rider in particular, the drama shown for these characters is so unique that they almost feel monolithic. There are layers to these characters that you just can't get enough of. And that character for me happens to be Kaito Kumon. He's shown as this tortured soul who's built up from his experiences as a poverty-stricken, family-torn, and hardened man. It comes together in him as someone whose resolve and modus operandi is the most consistent in the entire show. He's put in situations like being at the forefront of defending Zawame City, and even then his Darwinism is still there. It's not like I even agree with him, it's just that he's written that good. It's extremely dense. He's one of the many aspects to Kamen Rider Gaim that makes it one of my absolute favorite tokusatsus. Oh yeah, if you like my contributions to this channel, like all the videos I wrote on here, check out my channel I'm working on, Liz Says Thing.
36.
Masamune Dan, also known as Kamen Rider Kronos. While a cunning and charming businessman, Masamune is a manipulative and remorseless control freak. Literally, with a severe god complex, who has no qualms of murdering others and committing underhanded deeds to get his way. Despite being a villain through most of the series when he first became Kronos, he definitely redeemed himself in another ending, Laser vs. Gem.
35.
The reason why I love Kamen Rider 01 is simple. He's everything I love in a superhero. He's a really kind guy who's always looking out for other people. He evolves over the course of the show from being just a normal guy who wants to make other people laugh into a superhero that wants to use every bit of power he has to make the world a better place. He never stops running towards his dream, and even when he's at his lowest point, he never stops. Even when he's consumed by hate and vengeance, he still ultimately chooses love over hate, and he keeps moving forward towards his dreams. I really admire 01 for that, and that's why, even still, he's my favorite Kamen Rider.
34.
I love Kamen Rider X8, more specifically the writer himself, Emu Hojo. Emu embodies a lot of what I want in a Kamen Rider protagonist. In the beginning of the show, he seems pretty dumb and naive, but it's all to serve as our introduction to this world. And I think it's always really heartwarming to have a character like this jump into a dangerous situation just to save someone as a Kamen Rider, which they've never done before. Naturally, the logical path of his development is that he becomes more mature, keeping up with how the show becomes more serious in tone. But what I think makes this really satisfying is that it's part of this exchange Emu goes through with the rest of the X8 cast. Since the other doctors all start off way more serious than he is, Emu's maturity is a result of him learning from these other characters, like the troubles of being a doctor from Brave and Snipe, or how cruel the world can really be from Laser and Genmu. At the same time, his naivety rubs off on those other characters to the point where we have Brave actually sticking up for Emu, and Snipe puts all of his faith into him. Emu and the other riders facilitate each other's growth, and it's spectacular to watch. You compare Emu at the beginning of X8 to Emu at the end, and he's definitely the same person, but he's also definitely gone on this journey to become a better version of the same person. We go from an Emu who trips and falls and, he does the clumsy stuff, to the Emu who stops Parrot from teleporting out of a game area just so he can kill him to prove a point about what lives mean. It also really helps that Emu says the line about how human lives matter because we only get one, which is actually my favorite piece of dialogue in Kamen Rider that really manages to sum up everything this season is about, so I associate him pretty closely with the feeling of what Kamen Rider X8 means to me. I also associated him with the Muteki gamer since, that's his final form and it's also my favorite suit in Kamen Rider, so, Emu's pretty cool on his own and he's got other things that I associate with him that are also really cool, so he's overall just an awesome Kamen Rider protagonist.
33.
I am the #1 Kamen Rider Dragonite stan. As such, today I'm going to be talking about Len, better known as Kamen Rider Wing Knight. Wing Knight is a character that I really love because of how well he exemplifies the idea of survivor's guilt. He's someone who's burdened with being the sole survivor of his team, being the only one left to fight after everyone else is gone. This is demonstrated beautifully in his introduction. He's first characterized as being rather cold and standoffish. While yes, he is going around saving people, he doesn't particularly care much or is kind towards them. Sure, he might have saved Maya from the mirror monsters, but he also breaks her camera with no remorse or care whatsoever. He pushes Kid away, not wanting him to become a rider, with very little to almost no explanation as towards why. He starts to explain the story of Ventara, what happened, and how he became the last rider. He grows more comfortable with Kid and starts to accept him as a partner. Wing Knight is supposed to be the leader. He is supposed to be the mentor. He is supposed to be the one taking care of and guiding the Earth Riders, and yet he failed. He probably would have continued down this self-destructive path had it not been for the return of Siren. Siren helps to ground him. She helps to stabilize him. She helps to reassure him. He's happier. He's more comfortable. He's very different because of the fact that Siren is there. She helps him to release some of the pain that he's been carrying within him. It's a story of letting go of the past. Letting go of your regret, of your self-hatred, and letting go of your guilt. It's a story of accepting that when things happen, you are not to blame for them. Of accepting that even though you survived, that does not make you responsible for what happened to the others. I love how real it feels. I love how accurate it feels to someone who is suffering through survivor's guilt. It isn't a clean story. It isn't straightforward. He doesn't meet Kit and immediately get over everything. He regresses. He gets angry. It's very painful, as I said. But again, it's human, it's realistic, and I adore him for it. He's such a complex character.
32.
Now obviously you're there thinking to yourself, wait, hold on just a minute, Getcha. There's gotta be more than one really good Kamen Rider, right? No. Kamen Rider Zeto. Only found in the most obscure places such as YouTube.com, this is the story of a man on a mission. He's tough, buff, and thick as hell. You with him, you don't get to live. You make him ticked, he'll beat your dick. Step in his path and he'll eat your ass. Anyway, Zeto's like, alright, bitch, let's do this thing. Then he gets off his boom, and anyway, Zeto's amazing. Go watch it right now.
31.
Hey, Mark here, and I'm going to be talking about Kamen Rider Birth. It's just a great suit, okay? I'm shallow. The suit is amazing. I love the turquoise and the silver with the black and everything else. Birth was one of the few riders that I seen at the time where you could have multiple users of that rider system. Growing up as a fan of Inspector Gadget, that's basically what Birth was. Very entertaining and cool to see on screen, especially when you go into the different, upgrades. This was also, just from the standpoint of the story behind it, Akira Date is my favorite user of the Birth system. I know a lot of people don't bring up Birth when they talk about, some of their favorite Kamen Riders, even secondaries, and I can understand why. Honestly, I really liked the driver a lot. Gachapon, I don't think we've seen something similar to that since then.
30.
Soji Tendo is the man who walks the path of heaven. It was his destiny to become Kamen Rider Kabuto, and he definitely has the ego to prove it. What people don't like about Tendo is that he's one note, from beginning to end. But that's what I like about him. He's always on top of everything, always so smug, always 5 steps ahead, and yet he has a big heart that cares about humanity and his friends. And his suit is cool too.
29.
My favorite rider is Kamen Rider Ghost. One of the big things that I think people have a problem with is that despite the message of the show being, oh, you only have one life, so live it well, Takeru has more than one life. Here's how I interpret it. Takeru dies a lot, and every time he dies, he treats it as if he's gonna stay dead. He pretty much gave up. He decided that he wasn't any good at heroing, so why even bother? And then, when his first 99 days were up, he accepted it. But he doesn't ask for his body back. I truly believe that he wanted to stay dead. Yeah, it'd be nice if he came back to life, but he was still living every single moment as if those would be his last days on Earth. It really resonates with me, the idea of staying alive and living each day as if it's your last. Because even though I'm scared of death, I'm not scared of having fun. I'm not scared of friends, and I'm not scared of helping people. So, one more message. Ghost is good, you guys are just mean.
28.
Hello and welcome, I'm High C. We have been lucky enough to have 46 years of Kamen Rider with no signs of slowing. It all had to start somewhere, so that's why I'm here talking about Kamen Rider Ichigo, or Kamen Rider the First. Ichigo's origin starts when the terrorist organization known as Shocker kidnaps Takashi Hongo, a man with great athletic ability and a high IQ, seeking to turn him into a cyborg that will be brainwashed into doing Shocker's bidding. But luckily for Takashi, the process was interrupted and he was left with his moral consciousness intact. But now, with the fury of the wind and the ability to henshin into a Kamen Rider. Kamen Rider Ichigo's suit is one of the most iconic images in Japan. The suit did go through a few revisions throughout the run of the Kamen Rider series, though its main signature looks are always apparent, modeled after a grasshopper with its big strawberry eyes and antennae, an affect still seen 46 years later in modern Kamen Rider suit design. With the exception of only a few, almost every new generation of Kamen Rider incorporates the eyes and the belt design of Ichigo, giving him an iconic endurance that's hard to rival.
27.
I would have to go with Black RX. He was previously Kamen Rider Black. He's basically an evolution of Black. The sun basically fixes Kingstone. So, this is why his belt is called the Sunriser, because he needs the power of the sun to, transform. He's basically just a flower. Yeah. A little flower boy.
26.
Kentaro is hands down one of the friendliest riders out there. His sole mission in life is to befriend everyone he meets. As soon as he arrives at Amanagawa High School, he immediately makes it his mission to befriend everyone at school. And the lengths he goes to accomplish that goal is nothing short of insane. Then when the other riders get thrown into the mix, he'll make sure he befriends them all. But the main reason why he's my pick is that when I said he wanted to befriend everyone at the school, I meant it. He doesn't see the students turned monsters as enemies or opponents, but as the students they are who need a friend. Even the final villain of the series isn't immune from Gentaro's power of friendship. He's not the smartest, he's not the best fighter, but he's the one that's there for you when you've had a bad day. He's the one that will listen to any troubles you have. He's the one that will save you if you're in peril. In short, I love this space cinnamon roll.
Hooray! Someone likes me!
25.
Kamen Rider Gaim, the 2013 to 2014 entry into this beloved franchise. What hasn't already been said about this series? The story, the characters, the twists, the battles, all of it's just amazing. There's a ton to like about Kamen Rider Gaim for a lot of reasons. One of my favorite things about Kamen Rider Gaim is that it took a step back from the old formula of two-parters that they had up until now. Gaim's entry had arcs that told an amazing story of maturing and becoming responsible, with a lot of action thrown in between. There's about 4 or 5 arcs to this series, and each one is intense and satisfying to watch unfold. The pacing for this series is actually pretty good. I had little trouble staying invested in the series, and unlike most of the franchise, actually watched it from start to finish as the subtitled episodes were released. The story had me on the edge of my seat, the battles were brilliant to watch, and I just love that music. Sublime.
24.
Eiji Hino, a man with no desire. Someone who threw it all away in order to reach out his hand to help others. His selflessness proved to be stronger than even the biggest desire, especially when his journey continued in search of a long-lost friend. By the end, he found out maybe he had the biggest desire of them all, and that desire led him to finally rest. A selfless hero who did everything he could, just like he wanted. I'm not a fan of the suit though.
23.
Toma Kamiyama, Kamen Rider Saber, an author who put the pen down in order to bring up the sword. Or maybe he never needed the sword in the first place. The adventure he goes through is basically just another story, another book, another novel. But each novel, each story, is important. It's written by someone who cares deeply about these stories. Toma knew the importance of a story. He knew the importance of friends, and the people he can share these stories with. Whether it was a struggle against literal monsters, or his own inner demon, Toma knew to push hard, and write it down. Everyone has a story worth telling, and his story was more than worth telling.
22.
Hayato Ichimonji, Shin Nigo. Okay, I really don't have much to say about him considering he has like 5 minutes of screen time, but man, are those 5 minutes so friggin' cool. Like, yeah, I know that he's like super high up on this really long video, but man, look how cool he is.
21.
Yo guys, GLENNSHIRAISHI here to explain you why Kamen Rider Gen makes it on this top 50. Suit design-wise, he is pretty much player 2 X8 with, in my opinion, a much cooler color scheme of black and purple, as well as Zombie Gamer's design. Character-wise? Oh boy, where to begin? Dankuroto, also known as Shin Dankuroto, or Dankuroto Shin or Deus. Initially a polite individual running a game studio, he turns out to be a psychopath with a god complex and really huge ambitions, which he doesn't see through until the end when he got killed off. I really enjoyed the times that he was on screen, especially since the actor had huge fun playing his character. And that is why this certified mad lad deserves to be on this list.
20.
Takatoru Kurishima, aka Kamen Rider Zangetsu, is one of the most powerful writers out there. He is very strong and capable of many things. He has been shown throughout the series to be more powerful and experienced than most, if not all, the writers in the show. With the power of the Metaloloxy and the Sengoku Driver, he oversees our heroes and sometimes chips into the Beat Rider battles in the first few episodes, as he's also equipped with his Melon Defender to help him out. But later on, he obtains the Melon Energy Lock Seed and becomes Zangetsu Shin. But the best part of Zangetsu isn't the power, it's the person behind it. Takatoru is like a father figure in the show, looking out for his little brother and protecting him, even though it backfired later on in the season. He's very wise and a realist, which makes him more in control of his actions compared to the silly ones that we see through the Beat Riders. All this, included with the power he gets with the lock seeds, makes him one of the best riders in history.
19.
My favorite Kamen Rider is Kamen Rider Chaser from Kamen Rider Drive. Now, you may be thinking, it's because he's very cute, isn't he? Well, that's kind of it. But I love the development of his character throughout Drive. From being the executioner of the Remuda as Machine Chaser, from then transforming into Kamen Rider Chaser and becoming one of the good guys, to his final arc, his character basically had the same personality, but you just kept discovering more aspects of his character, like when he first found out what love was. That whole scene, I feel like, was one of the funniest scenes in the entire show. He also started the tradition of villains becoming good Kamen Riders, with Kamen Rider Ghost's Necrom, Kamen Rider Xade's Paradox, and Kamen Rider Build's Rogue, with, I feel like, Chase as being the strongest out of all of them. So yeah, that's why Chase is my favorite Kamen Rider. Thank you.
18.
I will blow out your headphones, and with that being said, hey guys, it's Dawn, and I want to talk about Fies. I love Fies. The suit, to be exact. The lights. The belt. Ooh. The whole goddamn suit. Ooh, yeah. The driver. It's so versatile. Let's start with the I punched that cougar's face off with the camera. I'm in a Fies is my favorite rider design because sharks are cool. All right. And with that, I leave you.
17.
Whether you think Shotaro is hard-boiled or half-boiled, you have to admit, Kamen Rider Double is so cool! The duo that saves the people of the Windy City Futo from the dangerous USB-looking devices called memories, Kamen Rider Double is one of my most favourite Kamen Riders. From the sepia tone of the detective story to the heartwarming moments, civilians to villains. Yes, even the villains have great backstories and conflicts. But ultimately what makes W so inviting and enjoyable is the sheer joy and hype I feel when watching the duo detective team, Shotaro and Philip, work on a case, share wholesome and hilarious moments. Also, just look at the suit. They are a 2-in-1 Kamen Rider detective agency, one with the heart and one with the brain. And the brawn, you ask? We don't question it. Those two make the greatest team as both have such faith in each other, and also show a very human, realistic insight into those grieving and those accepting their weaknesses. We see them battle monsters, humans, family members, and friends. We see them go through heartbreak and trauma, but also see them standing together, united. Okay, maybe not all the time, but when they leave, it makes my heart ache. And when they reconnect, it makes my heart sing. Also, the bromance. And this friendship is one that is genuine and what keeps them moving forward. Also, Philip with his obsessions that he could research to his heart's content in the Gaia library is so cute. And just generally, his backstory is so heartbreaking. I love it. Overall, this rider is stellar compared to others. The characteristics, friendship, and bromance between Shotaro and Philip is what I crave for in any good show. And the look of the suits are fun and quirky. People love this rider for a reason, and it's obvious why. I hope you agree with me. If you don't, let's agree to disagree. But for now, that's been my opinion on the best Kamen Rider. I'm Keza Henshin, or Kezachi on most platforms. Matane.
16.
Today I got invited by Marcus to talk about Poppy and why she's one of my favorite Kamen Riders. From writing the script, I watched X8 exactly a year ago after a friend of mine begged me to at least give it a try, and ironically enough, it was because of the overall game-like Poppy vibes. But I quickly fell in love with the characters and I got pretty used to the environment of the show. One character I just could not miss out on for the entirety of X8, and that was Poppy. So Marcus put it best in his X8 discussion, she's pink. I never thought I'd ever see someone rock a short pink wig after Lazy Town. Her dress is super cute, and if you take a closer look, see she has a lot of pins and accessories on it, and it's just adorable. I love her so much. To be honest, she reminds me more of a Vocaloid character than a rhythm game character, and I'm a very big fan of her design, and I actually referenced it a little in my Kamen Rider Hello Kitty drawing. Moving on from her character, Poppy has a very bubbly and energetic personality. Seriously made me forget she's a boxer from time to time. Overall, seeing her interact with the crew always brought me a lot of joy, be it her scolding Kuroto, causing discomfort in the Christmas special, and I loved her singing Poppy. That was my little segment. Well, see you next game!
15.
He told me not to do Kamen Rider Genna because he knows me way too well. So I picked my second favorite, Kamen Rider Geats. Ukyo is a really great character, but his character goes way into more depth than anything we got in Reiwa. While Ukyo is still playing the hero, he's not actually the hero. He just wants to play the game, but he also has redeeming qualities to him. He is based on the fox, and Ukyo as a character does resemble a fox due to its lion nature. You don't know what a fox can do. But I think that's all for today.
14.
Izu from 01 may not immediately come to mind when talking about the best Kamen Riders, considering she first transformed in the movie after the end of the series, but she deserves the title. Izu was more than just a secretary. She was Aruto's family. She was always by his side unless she worked to get issues resolved. She didn't even need a rider form to combat enemies, and she didn't need a special power to be unique. More than just a robot, more than just a machine, Izu is one of my favorite Kamen Riders. And her base form being another rider's final form is pretty cool.
13. This is a double entry. My bad.
Kamen Rider Den-O. Ryotaro Nogami is a character a lot of us can identify with. He's the unlucky underdog who gets stepped on and tossed in the trash, sometimes literally. But he has a pure heart and will not stop in his effort to do the right thing and help anyone he can. He loves and protects his sister, and is someone I personally strive to be more like. Not to mention, his actor, Takeru Sato, is easy on the eyes. One common criticism I hear is that Ryotaro can be bland at times, or isn't your typical big strong hero. But lucky for you, that's where the Imagine come in. His quiet, meek persona is the perfect blank slate for our colorful cast of wish-granting monsters. Momotaros lends Ryotaro a bravery and ferocity he may have been lacking. Or maybe it was in him all along and our hero didn't quite know how to tap into it. Likewise, Urotaros provides a flirtatious cunning, and Kintaros a measured strength. Ryutaros is the wild card, and brings a childlike chaos to the party that can't go unnoticed. Touching briefly on the suit, I love the train track motif and how the suit forms around the body. In a bit of design genius, you can just make out the colors and bits of the other forms incorporated into each one. And the fact that each Imagine gets their own form makes them feel even more unique. The character of Ryotaro and Kamen Rider Den-O go through a lot of changes throughout the series, but there's no denying that our current Den-O, in the form of Momotaros, is one of the most beloved and iconic characters in Kamen Rider today.
12.
Kamen Rider Black Sun has it all. An old grumpy Delph, a very questionable past, and a subtly horrifying suit design. All jokes aside, I really adore Kamen Rider Black Sun. Having not seen the original Kamen Rider Black, I went into Black Sun with no expectations at all and got overwhelmed with how much I liked Kotaro and the show. I especially liked the way he just kind of gave up on life and lived in his little bus in the middle of nowhere. But like once he basically adopted Aoi after she was orphaned, he warmed up again and like realized that the things he once fought for are also the things Aoi is fighting for. He plays his role as an old man that doesn't really want to care, but on the bottom line, he does in fact care. As for the suit, the sleek black design with the red highlights captured me immediately, and the amount of like loving detail both on the kaiju form and the rider suit are like immaculate. There's so much attention to detail that went into the suits. Also, his teeth in that one shot were so scary. Like, the practical effect department went wild with this whole drama. There's many, many more things I love about Black Sun. For example, how it doesn't shy away from showing you how racism affects people and how it can change a society and split a society, etc., etc. I don't know what to do with this.
11.
Kamen Rider Kuga is the first season of the Heisei era. In the story, there is only one rider. He is very well developed throughout the show, and the police are a very big factor in this show. For the most part, like, the episodes do a good job of what they're trying to do. Part of Kuga, that we can spend time with these characters and get to develop feelings for them. So we know that they're fighting for something they believe in, and they need to fight in order to survive the attacks and fight to defend themselves as humanity. And I feel like that's important. And Kuga set the foundation for how they want the Heisei eras to evolve from or change from Kuga.
10. This audio was recorded in 2018, so please excuse the quality and writing.
How is a Kamen Rider supposed to act? Heroic, upbeat, caring, willing to change and sacrifice themselves for the greater good. Tsukasa Kadoya, Kamen Rider Decade, is none of that. He's the guy who passes through without a care in the world, while giving a sarcastic comment to whoever he sees. Some would say Tsukasa's a bad character because of how different he is from other riders, since he has a bad attitude, but that's why I like him. Takumi Inui is sarcastic, but still tries to do what's right. Tsukasa, on the other hand, just so happens to defend the world he's in, all because he finds the monsters annoying. In that way, he's one of the only lead riders that acts more like an anti-hero, even becoming a full-on villain a couple of times in the movies. I enjoy an upstanding hero, but my personal taste has to go to a sarcastic jerk like Tsukasa. His rider form is also pretty nice. Its strange color like magenta or pink isn't seen often in rider suits. Man, I just love Decade so much.
9.
I think it would be ludicrous to have a top 50 Kamen Riders list and not include Tsurugi or Kamen Rider Sasword in it. When first introduced to Tsurugi, he sets himself as an obstacle against Tendo Soji's presence. He considered himself to be the very best at everything there possibly is, and while at first it seemed to be very standoffish, over the course of the show it became a motivation for him to succeed in a world that was slowly reshaping his perspective. Tsurugi wants to uphold his Discable family name more than anything. Whether that means beating someone at chess or slicing through worms, Tsurugi decides to make his mark upon the world by calling himself the man who slashes at heaven with a sword. Tsurugi eventually comes to know that his once proud family name is now nearly bankrupt, and when his job he once held with Zekta Sasword starts to not be enough, Tsurugi does everything in his power to make his butler, Jia, happy. Tsurugi is a character with so much heart and love that it becomes so endearing to see him try so hard to succeed despite all the challenges that are thrown at him. He even joins with the Hell Brothers for a slight moment. Above everything else, he loves his family more than anything, and will do anything he can to protect them. When Tsurugi finally discovers the truth for himself, he makes the ultimate sacrifice to protect the people he loves. Tsurugi's love for his family and his friends overcame the dark truth of his own past, and despite the fact that he turned out to be his own worst enemy, he went to great lengths to prove that his heart overcame his hate.
8.
I love Kamen Rider Gills. His suit is super cool, sleek, easy on the eyes, and recognizable. The best part is his functional fang jaw that moves when he screams. It's really cool. Out of suit, Ashihara Ryo continually loses things that are precious to him, but continuously gives back to the world and the viewers. Want to teach that entitled kid a positive life lesson? Want to punch that insufferable prick in the face? Want to hug that lost puppy? Ashihara Ryo will do all of that and more.
7.
What is up, kids? It's your boy Khan here, rolling through to this big time celebration to talk about my favorite Kamen Rider of all time, Zack, aka Kamen Rider Knuckle. People sleep on my boy Zack, but he has got some of the best growth in all of Gaim. He goes from a douchebag cheater to someone who literally sacrifices one of his best friends for the sake of the world. He is a good, valid boy, and look at that suit. Holy moly, he got big fists. Mimi Fist Boy. That sounds wrong. But regardless, he is so unique in Gaim. Everyone else is so sleek and kind of, ready for a more tactical fight. And here is my boy Zack just clobbering time on the mother. Can I swear? But not content with that, when he got his own V-Cinema, he upgraded to Knuckle Jimba Marin, and he got 2 cool-ass fists, and one of them were even bigger. Not only is he a cool, different, unique design that no one picks as their favorite rider, but he is a best boy. I love Kamen Rider Knuckle, and you know what? I love you too.
6.
Hello there, it's Sentai Guy here, and today I'm going to be giving my reasons for why my favorite Kamen Rider is Kamen Rider Hibiki from Kamen Rider Hibiki. Now, Hibiki is not looked on so favourably by most of the Kamen Rider fandom due to the series really dropping in quality from the second half onwards, but I think although that may be true, the rider himself is still really cool, and here's some of the reasons why. Number 1. He's a mystical rider, which you don't often get in Kamen Rider, as most of them are focused on more technological aspects, whereas Hibiki is literally an Oni. Number 2. The design. Aside from the loincloth, I really do love the design of Hibiki, as it's not over the top packed with colours and just looks bad. It's sleek and simple, but in a really good way, and it's just so damn shiny. Number 3. I just love all his weapons and all his techniques. He has such a range of ways of fighting with abilities such as opening his mouthpiece to breathe fire, throwing fire from his weapons, and extending his claws, but they never feel forced like it's just stuck onto his rider to sell more gimmicky toys. It just feels natural, like you'd expect an Oni to be able to fight like this. And even with the whole drumming to perform the finisher, yes, it's quite dumb, but it actually is quite cool the more you see it, and makes for some really nice cinematic moments. Number 4 is the forms. Now, Hibiki only gets 2 upgraded forms, which I hugely prefer over how Kamen Rider is now, with so many gimmick items and so many forms, it's just hard to keep track of. But he only has 3. His base, his upgrade, which admittedly isn't amazing looking as it just turns in red, and the final form, which is just absolutely superb, and it does such a good job of making him look powerful and fierce. And finally, number 5, which is one of my favourite concepts about the rider, is that he goes on to teach an apprentice to take over for him when he can no longer continue, which to me is such a breath of fresh air in Kamen Rider, as we've never really seen a concept like this before, and to my knowledge there really still isn't anything like this to this day. Oh, and also, he is such a dad.
5.
Good day, everyone. It's Matty here to tell you about why Sento Kiryu, aka Kamen Rider Build, is the best Kamen Rider ever, without spoiling too much of the show for those who haven't seen it yet. Let's start off with his personality. Sento is a genius physicist prone to narcissistic tendencies and takes large amounts of pride in his own work and successes. He has quite an inflated ego and is a bit of a smartass to his friends, not one to hold back any sarcastic jab that comes to his head. However, despite this egocentric tint to his personality, it doesn't make him any more unlikable, nor do his quirks feel mean-spirited like other narcissistic writers of the past, such as Kabuto. He has a firm belief in justice and scientific integrity, believing everything created from science should be for the betterment of mankind and furthering knowledge, and he strongly detests science being used as a tool of war. He cares very deeply for his friends, even if he doesn't make it 100% obvious at times, willing to bear the brunt of any burden just so those he cares about won't have to get hurt. Being a genius, he has achieved some amazing scientific feats. He's the one who created the build driver from the very beginning, and as such, it would be expected for him to create his own upgrade forms such as Rabbit Tank Sparkling, Rabbit Rabbit and Tank Tank, and last but not least, Genius! Every single form of his looks great in my opinion, with Rabbit Rabbit quickly becoming my favorite transformation in all of Kamen Rider, and Rabbit Tank is the best base form ever for any rider. He also is responsible for making Cross into a rider to begin with by making another build driver for Ryuga and creating all of his upgrades from the Cross Dragon to the Magma Knuckle. Saying Sento is a brilliant character is a massive understatement, and he should be witnessed by viewing the actual show in its entirety. His interactions with other characters range from anywhere between interesting to straight up hilarious. And you can totally tell Atsuhiro Inakai has a great time portraying him. He goes through his fair share of both successes and turmoil, and seeing either are just so engaging because of how dynamic of a character he's written to be. In my personal opinion, I would go as far as to call Kamen Rider Build my favorite Kamen Rider character ever. I just hope future characters in the franchise will be just as good. Or almost as good, even. Oh yeah, and he recorded a video of himself lip-syncing to Rap God. I mean, come on, how could he not be the best Kamen Rider after that? Ooh, yeah, I almost forgot. Whenever something piques his scientific interest, he just gets a little hair boner. It's like the cutest thing ever! Why is he so adorable?
4.
I am a very stubborn person. When I pick a favorite something, I tend to stick to it. For the longest time, my favorite Kamen Rider was Kamen Rider Meteor, Sakato Ryusei. And I was a loyal lover. Until we met Banjo Ryuga, Kamen Rider Cross. Or Crossy, or Cross, or whatever you want to call him. He's loud, irrational, and stupid. And that's exactly why I love him so much. His determination to help others is astounding, even putting his own life at risk many times just to help someone out. And his partnership with Sento is probably the best partnership I have ever seen in Kamen Rider. My absolute favorite moment is when Sento attempts to use the Slash driver and fails. Ryuga goes to use it and Sento tells him that he can't use it because it's too dangerous. Ryuga says it's for Misora's sake and that if Sento were to die, she'd have no one left. But no one would miss him if he died, so he's a perfect candidate to use this driver. Then he looks back and says, "Sorry, I'm the hero this time." It just goes to show how great of a character he is. He's so well written, he's such a genuine guy, and I can't help but love him with all of my heart. Also, Cross Magma is so freaking beautiful, I love it, oh my god!
3.
My best friend, Kagami. A simple man who only wanted to protect people. He felt like he was needed, and was the one to put himself out there. Until Tendo stepped in and showed Kagami who fate favored. Even against the perfect man, Kagami continued his best to fight worms and save people, no matter what. That led him to be chosen by Zector to become Kamen Rider Gatak. He may not be a man who walks the path of heaven. He is a little naive, but he is Arata Kagami. Kagami walked, so Keiwa could run.
2.
Haruka Mizusawa grew up in a lonely world, locked up inside his room over a lie in order to hide his Amazon DNA. He was soon freed and saw the atrocities of the real world. Haruka learned he was neither fully human nor Amazon, but he would fight for both. A decision that wasn't very realistic. Humans and Amazon could never live together peacefully. Haruka would still try. He's, ironically, a very human character who grew up in a world that didn't want him, but he was still a beacon of hope. A very small beacon, but one that shone brightly to his allies and his family.
1.
I have no idea who this is.